Hey everybody, welcome to Potter's Plant-Based Adventures, very first video. In today's recipe we're going to make an enchilada bake. Got my wife Sarah here with me. This is a layered dish. It's a very comforting, flavorful dish that has a homemade enchilada sauce in it, tortillas, cheese, and your choice of a vegetarian protein or non-vegetarian protein, depending on which way you want to go. So we're going to start off with the sauce because that's the part that takes the longest to make. We got a couple tomatoes here, and the nice thing about this particular dish when you're making the sauce is we can cut things into big chunks. So you don't have to sit here and dice up things into small pieces. We're going to go in big chunks. This stuff's going to cook down for a while, and then we're going to blend it up. So don't waste too much time with your knife.
Definitely. This is one of the dishes that whenever we have friends come over, we make, and they absolutely love it. And they're always asking us for the recipe to take home. We've had a lot of friends who have made us and send us pictures afterwards too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a really fun and easy dish to make, and it's always a crowd pleaser.
Great for entertaining.
Definitely.
So we started off with 2 tomatoes. I cut the tops off of those and I quartered them. The tops I'm putting in a separate bowl. You see a lot of people with cooking shows, they have their garbage bowl that they put out there. This is our vegetable stock bowl. So
yeah, very little goes in the garbage around here, guys, and you're going to see why, especially if you keep watching us. You're going to see all the amazing uses Kenny comes up with for stuff, and it's one of the reasons why his food tastes so great. So keep watching for these awesome little tips he gives.
Yeah, we don't want to waste anything. So the tomato tops go in there. The onions, you peel off the papery part, this outer layer, that's still good, nothing wrong with that. That goes into the stock bowl. We'll use that some point in time in the future. Same thing with the tops. There's papery parts, we cut those off. Still have a nice amount of onion there.
He really wastes almost nothing, you guys. It's amazing to me. He's really good about that. And it's good for the environment. We are reusing as much as we possibly can. And before we started doing this, and I'm going to kind of give it away there, is this okay?
Sure.
I swear I used to ask him if he had bought stock in vegetable stock.
I was using a lot of vegetable
because
stock.
we were buying so much vegetable stock. And then he started doing this, and our food became more flavorful. I'm sure it's better for us as far as vitamins and things like this. And what he's doing here is he's saving all of these to make our own vegetable stock. So
that's a weekend project. Make stock on the
yes,
weekend and
I'm sure we'll be doing a video about this, but if you open our freezer at any given time, there are like tons of little Ziploc baggies full of frozen vegetable pieces like this. And then he makes his own vegetable stock, and it is a total game changer.
Alright, so we got our 2 tomatoes chopped up. I have a half of an onion. I've cut in pretty sizable pieces here, if you see. Pretty good chunk. Again, we're going to grind all this up in a blender, so don't spend too much time chopping up the vegetables.
Oh, and as a little sneak peek, I have already told him he has to do a video on all the ways and easy ways you can cut an onion, because I have watched this guy cut an onion and it doesn't sound like it would be entertaining, but I'm telling you guys, it's wild. So
more to come.
More to come.
One of the things I personally hate is peeling garlic. So that's
and
what I
love
have her for. So I got 3 cloves of garlic. Sarah's going to peel these for me, cut the ends off. The little end pieces that are stuck to the head there, save that after peel the papery part off, save that for your stock.
She's trained me well.
The rest, the whole clove, it's going to go in with what we're going to saute. So Sarah's going to start peeling that garlic for me, and I'm going to get some heat on our pans.
And I will tell you guys, one of the biggest things that I did learn from him is that when you take the knife and you're peeling garlic, if you have a really nice big knife like this, you put some pressure down on it and you just crush the garlic like that. From that point, it becomes really easy to just peel the garlic right out. So you, as hard as it can be to peel garlic, if you crush it first, look at that. I peeled that entire head of garlic just like that.
Like CPR press. I like to give it a little smack.
Yeah, I did the little CPR press. And then that little tiny piece at the top that you're not going to want to use in your dish, that goes into our stock bowl, because I've been trained well.
Yes, don't waste anything.
Exactly.
So I've got our pot for our sauce on medium heat. I like to do everything on medium heat. I think it's easy to kind of time things out that way. That's just the way I've been. My daughter likes to crank everything up to like high heat, and that drives me crazy. But if you can work quickly, good for you. Crank up the heat. Me, medium. I'm going to drop a tablespoon of olive oil in here. You can use canola oil, just a little bit to get our dish started with that oil heating up. My Sarah's finishing up the garlic.
It's a lot faster this way. And if you see some of them that don't crush as hard for me, then I just cut a little bit off the top, and since it's a little crushed, and I cut a little bit off the top, then I can start from there to, there's a little piece on here that I don't want to
clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, then I can just peel it right off from there. So super fast, those 3 pieces of garlic, and done.
They're ready to go. That's going to go in with the rest of our vegetables. So we got our 2 tomatoes cut up into wedges. We've got large chunks of onion in here. We've got 3 garlic cloves. All of that's going to come over to our saucepan. Drop that in. See, that was a perfect amount of time that our pan heat up. You hear that sizzle going? Now we're going to start our seasoning. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. You can use iodized salt, just use less salt. You can always add more, you can't really take a lot out. And 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm going to sprinkle that over the top. The black pepper, I use freshly ground black pepper. I have a little grinding mechanism that I like to use. Anytime you can grind your pepper, get the peppercorns. One of these, they're really easy to find. You can find them on Amazon or wherever you do your online shopping.
So we have our little peppercorns in there, and then we can just grind up.
Freshly ground pepper.
Right there.
We're going to add 1 tablespoon of chili powder. Got 2 teaspoons of cumin. Then I've got 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. Mexican oregano is best if you have it. If not, any kind of oregano really works. Oregano leaves, not ground. 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. Now this is something I've been using more and more in my cooking. Works really well for Mexican dishes, but also adds a ton of flavor to any of the dishes that you can use. And then I'm going to drop in 5 slices of homemade pickled jalapenos, just because.
Yeah, that you don't have to do that. And while I will make him do some videos on pickling, you can also purchase pickled jalapenos. They don't have to be homemade.
That's true. If you have a pickled jalapeno that you buy that you like, go for it.
Go for it.
Alright, so I'm going to start at the heat for our protein. Drop 2 tablespoons of oil in that pan while the veggies are going. Now for our protein, we're going to use the corn meatless grounds. You can use whatever veggie protein you might like to use. We've used rice cauliflower before, that works as well.
Yeah.
So whatever you want to add that filling that goes with your sauce and your tortillas and your cheese, you have that extra layer of something in there.
Exactly.
Alright.
Have we done this with a vegetarian chicken before?
We have not tried it
We
with the
have
chicken.
not, but that might be interesting.
That
Especially
would-
if you did like a pulled chicken, like
Oh, yeah.
if you shredded some of the vegetarian chickens. That's one we haven't tried yet, but might be good as well. But we've basically stuck with the different options that are kind of the ground meat substitutes so far.
Yeah, we're usually using some sort of ground product, or
Yes.
like we said, the rice cauliflower ground
Right.
as well.
Yes, definitely.
I'm going to add 3 cups of water to this. And that is going to cook down for about 20 or 30 minutes. We want to make sure that all of our vegetables are thoroughly cooked, because once it cooks down, you get all those seasonings in there, we're going to run it through the blender, and then that enchilada sauce is going to be ready for our bake.
And it already smells amazing in here, you guys. Those vegetables with all that seasoning in there, the minute they start to cook down, the smell that comes off of them, your entire house just smells fantastic. That's another fun part about when you're doing this with like having guests come over or friends, is the minute they come in the door, they're like, oh, it smells so good in
Oh
here.
yeah,
Every
those
time.
aromatics hit the air, and there's a party. Party in the kitchen.
That's for sure.
In goes our corn meatless grounds. Stir.
You can, if you're like me, you can just use a spoon to
Oh, here
stir
we go.
those around. You don't have to have the perfect shakedown from the pan like he does. It's amazing. You should see him flip an omelet, but like
I've done a lot of omelets.
you
in my
can
life.
totally just use the spoon to stir your meatless crumbles if you'd like, just for the record.
So now we're going to season our meatless crumbles. We've got 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/2 teaspoon freshly ground black pepper. Sprinkle that over the top.
If you guys don't notice, I'm the one who cleans as I go. Kenny is the
nice.
one who uses 4,000 little little tiny things as he cooks to make all the dishes that I have to clean up afterwards.
Someone's got to make the mess, right?
But I can't complain because he makes delicious food, right? So it works for us.
So I have a similar seasoning mixture that we're going to put in with our enchilada base. I think you can see some of that in there. We've got 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of cumin, just like we did with the sauce, half of a teaspoon of smoked paprika, just like we did with the sauce. Here's where we switched things up. We added a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of onion powder, which I know you won't complain about.
I will not. Garlic and onion are like 2 of my favorite things in the entire world, you guys. I love them so much.
You could use a taco seasoning packet in this if you want to. This is a really flexible recipe. It's meant to be quick, easy, just finding what kind of flavors that you want to mix in there. Me, I like to start off with the spices I have around, but if you want to go easy, if you have an enchilada sauce that comes out that's pre-made that you like, you can use that, then you don't have to deal with making your own sauce.
That's very true. Yeah, we've had friends who said that they did that and it still worked out really well.
Absolutely. Very flexible
dish.
Then I'm going to add a half of a cup of water. And that's going to help all this kind of come together. And we're going to let the protein and the sauces cook down here. And then we'll get into the next step, which is finishing off that sauce and then building up our dish.
Very good. So we're going to move on to that?
We'll move on to that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, our sauce is cooked down about halfway. The onions are translucent. The tomatoes are pretty much cooked down to a nice mushy consistency. I don't know if you can see that in there. So we see our veggies are nice and cooked down. Nice and soft. So it's time to run this through the blender. One quick safety tip I'm going to give you all too. One, I'm going to pour this hot liquid into my glass blender over the sink, so we don't end up with a big mess on counters. Sarah does not like it when I make messes like that.
No, I don't.
2, whatever blender you're using, make sure it has a vent. So ours has a little vent on the back side here. It also has this top part, the vent. We put hot liquid in this. If you have this completely closed off when you start that blender and it's got all that steam, it's going to explode. This top's going to fly off. You're going to end up with sauce all over your kitchen.
And
I know that from experience.
Yes. So yeah, you need to make sure if you've got hot liquid in there, you have a vent.
Got to vent it, still hold the top, and we're going to puree this down to a smooth consistency. So bear with me with the noise. Good.
So about a minute, you said.
About a minute.
Right.
You kind of eyeball it. Put that back in the pot.
And like we said, this is because Kenny likes to make his own enchilada sauce. Everything that comes from scratch, almost everything pretty much from this kitchen comes from scratch. Now today, we are using store-bought tortillas, right?
I know. Cheated there. But we now have a nice, smooth sauce ready for our bake.
I'm excited.
Of course, we're not using this spoon. I got a ladle here for that, but that doesn't mean I can't go and taste the sauce. Try that out.
Oh my gosh.
Lots
That
of
is
flavor.
fantastic. That is so good,
You
Kenny.
get all those spices in there, the cumin, the chili powder,
Unbelievable.
all the good vegetables. All
All
right,
right,
we're going to
where's
put you on
Kenny?
this side. We're going
I'm
to
on
start
this side?
getting ready to build.
Okay.
Yes.
We are building our enchilada bake now, right?
Yep, we have a casserole
Right.
dish. We're going to start off.
Now you didn't have to like put any butter or anything in this,
No
right? It's just
oil,
a
no
glass,
butter.
Pyrex,
You can do glass, metal,
anything that can go
ceramic,
in the oven.
anything that can go in the oven.
Okay. All right.
And we're going to put a layer of sauce down so that our tortillas don't stick at the bottom of it.
Okay. So the sauce is kind of at the measure your butter or whatever.
Yeah, for those of you who bake, which I'm not great at baking, that's my weakness. And I've got tortillas here cut 3 different ways. We have, well, 2 different ways. Well, we have the whole tortilla, which I like to put in corners to start with. Then we cut them in half. So then we can start to fill in that space. We want to fill in all the space and make a nice layer, kind of like you're making lasagna, right?
Right.
As best you can. And then I cut an additional one into these little strips.
You cracks me up, you guys.
Making sure I'm filling up all the space as best I
I love
can
all the space.
to get that.
And even if you don't see that, even though some of those strips, he's like cutting, he's like breaking up into pieces.
Break them up into little
so that
pieces.
he can like really, especially on this bottom layer, he wants to have a really nice, like, you know, full layer of tortilla strips.
You don't want to cut into this and not have that stable base.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now we've got that down. I'm going to take a little bit more sauce, just kind of drizzle it around there. And the nice thing about this is the cheese and the tortillas, and even really some of the veggie protein is going to soak up a lot of the sauce when we bake it. So now we got that down. Next, the crumbles. So the veggie crumbles we did, the corn meatless crumbles, they're seasoned, they've been cooked. And now we're going to do a layer of that over top of our tortillas. So Sarah's just going to start to sprinkle those over, and don't be shy with it because we're really going to do this layer and 2 more. So think about that full pan you have there into 3 different sections, right? So this is section 1. We'll do another layer and then the final one. So split it up.
You tell me when to be good here.
That'll do it. That looks good. Now we're going to come over top with our cheese. So we took half a pound of mild cheddar and a half a pound of Monterey Jack cheese. I ran that through our food processor to get us a full pound of a blend of cheese. Again, this is something else. You don't have a lot of time. You have a bag of mixed cheese that you like that would go well with a dish like this. Grab it. You don't have to do.
Or if you're going to be really good and go vegan and you have a vegan cheese you like, you can use a vegan cheese.
Absolutely. So again, you can do a lot of different things with this dish. I'm just giving you the canvas. You paint the picture. And then we put a little bit more sauce over the top. Back with the tortilla. So I always try to remember where I put the full tortillas the last time around and then switch them up the next time.
Ah, that makes sense.
That way as you're building it up, you can like stabilize the base, I guess, is what I'm going for.
You guys, in all honesty, I'm cheating a little bit here because like normally I don't even do this much. Like he's talking me through this as much as you guys because I really don't cook. But I do know that he makes this a lot of times if he's like, okay, you know, he's had a really busy day or something. He's like, today's been a long day. We're gonna do a enchilada bake, and we're all like, yay, because everybody in the family loves this.
And if you got kids that like to cook, this is another great dish to use
right,
for that.
exactly. Ainsley usually helps you when she makes this, right? So.
All right, so now I got a little more sauce down. Sarah's gonna come back with the veggie protein. So about half of what you got left there, because we're gonna do 1 more layer of that before we put the top on it.
Oh, fun.
Keep sprinkling it across. But yeah, again, we haven't tried the pulled vegetarian chicken. That would be good. You could use the meat version of this. You could
we've used the Beyond Crumbles, haven't we?
We've used the Beyond Crumbles. We've done Impossible. We've done the rice cauliflower. So a lot of different variations to go. I think that looks good. And then bring on the cheese.
I'm never afraid of the cheese.
No, she's diving right into that.
That is the reason why we can't go vegan in this household, is that we are really bad about the cheese thing.
And there's a lot of different side dishes you could serve with this. We pretty much just go with this because we'll attack this whole platter. There will be very few survivors of it.
More or?
Just a little bit more, and I think we're good to go because we're going to do 2 more layers, so we'll do half of the next 2. But you could do charro beans, refried beans with this. You could do a Mexican rice, whatever you like as a side dish.
Definitely.
Works really well with this. Just like you're doing enchiladas, it's just enchilada lasagna, essentially.
It's enchilada lasagna, exactly.
Sprinkle a little more sauce on there.
You guys, this stuff is so delicious when you have it for dinner, but I gotta tell you, it might even be better as leftovers.
Right.
It is so good after it's like been in the refrigerator overnight and it like soaks up even more of that goodness. Like we fight over it as leftovers in this house. So yeah.
I get a bunch of different levels with that. You reheat that.
You said do 2 layers or this?
This is going to be the last layer of that, and then we'll put the top on. But you could reheat this in the morning, and I've done this before, and put a fried egg over the top.
Oh yes, Ainsley's done that
breakfast
before too. Yes.
Enchilada bake.
Definitely.
Oh yes.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes. That's
we just keep layering it on. Sauce, tortillas, crumbles, cheese, a little bit of sauce, tortillas, repeat over and over again. So you're going to use the rest of those crumbles on this layer, and then we're going to put the top on it, and then we're going to bake it. We've been preheating our oven at 400 degrees, so once we get it all put together, It'll go in there for about 20 minutes, and then we're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes, which is always the part that Sarah struggles with. She's like, it's ready.
It is. And Kenny and the kids, like, they can't eat like food that's like super hot straight out of the oven, but
No, you gotta let it cool down.
I totally can. So like it kills me because they're like, it needs to sit and rest. I'm like, it's ready to eat. Like I am ready to go, especially when something like this that I know I love already.
About half that cheese over this.
I mean, I'm ready to eat it right now. Like I'm like, I want to dive.
Forget about watching it bake.
I just need to. I mean, it's all cooked. But it's not, nothing's raw in here.
The important part about letting it rest is there's a lot of action going on in that oven with things boiling and bubbling. You need to let it settle down before you put it in. Otherwise, it's just going to slide. Yep, that's perfect. So now we're going to put the top layer on this.
Top layer. There we go.
Just like we have been, we're covering this up as best we can. We're using up the last parts of our ingredients with
wow, you really have this down to a science as to how many of these you need, don't you?
Right? I think I counted that out pretty well. I've made a couple of these.
Yeah, I am quite aware of that. All right, now do you put more of the enchilada sauce on the top?
Absolutely, that's the big thing.
You do? Okay.
And you know, the best part of this is I don't really have to use the ladle as much, except for to kind of spread the sauce around. We can just dump this in because
it all goes in there and then it all just soaks in and soaks up.
Everybody into the pool at this point.
This is how it works.
Yes, spread that around.
All right, I'm on board.
That's a good looking enchilada sauce too, by the way.
It is.
I'm excited about this.
So, I mean, the flavor was fantastic when I just
spread
tried it.
the last bit of the cheese over the top.
I just don't feel like there's enough cheese here.
Well, I know, right? I only used a pound of cheese in this, and Sarah wants more. Always.
I always want more cheese.
Which you can. If you like more cheese, certainly add more, but
I will say though, every time I actually eat this, it's always super cheesy. So I'm looking at this like, this needs more cheese, but he makes it the same way and I just don't see it every time. So I'm sure when it comes out, it's going to be more than cheesy enough for me.
oh, that Monterey Jack's going to melt down real nicely.
All right.
All right, so now it's going to go in the oven, 400 degrees. People's ovens, the heat levels vary from oven to oven. So 15 to 20 minutes. We just want everything to melt down, get heated up, get a little bit of browning going on around the edges, and then we'll be ready to go. We'll come back and start plating.
Oh, I can't wait to show you guys this.
All right, our casserole is all out of the oven. It spent 20 minutes at 400 degrees. We let it set for 15 minutes as I got my wife off of it.
It was really hard.
And now it's time to plate. I went ahead and made Sarah her dish, and we're gonna cut into this. It cuts very nice and smoothly. The tortillas are tender. You can dive into it. I like a nice big piece. You cut it like you would with lasagna. Look at that cheese coming off of there. The tortillas hold up really well.
They really do.
And we garnish it with just a little bit of sour cream. And Sarah's like dying over here because I already gave her a plate. She's like, I'm ready to get it.
Ready to go. The sour cream is my favorite part. I have to get a little bit of sour cream on each bite.
A couple of these pickled jalapenos on there. You could add guacamole or whatever else you might like to garnish with. A little cilantro. Look at that slice. Who wouldn't want that for dinner, right?
It's so good.
So we're going to dive on in. I'm surprised she hasn't already gotten into it. The cheese coming off of there.
This stuff is amazing. The flavors, the warmth, the consistency of how it all just blends together.
All the spices that we put in there, the cumin, the chili powder, the garlic, onion, all comes together right. That warm, spicy. This is a fantastic weekday comfort dish. Share with your friends and your family.
Big time. So good. Absolutely delicious.
Thank you so much for following along with our enchilada bake. If you're on YouTube and you want to tell us something else you'd like to see us make, add a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Definitely.
That's everything we have for you today. We know there's a lot of good food out there in the world, and whether you're out on the road trying to find it or in your own kitchen making it, make sure to remember to be safe, stay hungry.